Hello everyone, in this video we are going to talk about the present continuous tense, which maybe is the favorite tense of all students, because every time when they draw this card at the examination and they see the present continuous tense in it, for some reason they show so much joy and happiness that I start suspecting that this is the best tense maybe. But it still has several meanings, so we are going to talk about them when I pass over to my presentation. So just a few basic facts, right? The present continuous tense is an analytical form. An analytical form means that it has several elements. One of these elements is grammatical, has the grammatical meaning, and another element is lexical meaning. So the notional verb represents the lexical meaning of the whole phrase, right? Of the whole form. And in this case, the grammatical element is the auxiliary verb to be in the present indefinite, which means I am, you are, he is, and so on. And the lexical element is the ing form of the notional verb, reading, writing, working, and so on. So here you can see some examples. I am traveling alone. He's learning to drive. She's studying Spanish. It is raining. We're booking a flight. You're working tonight, they're smiling, and so on, right? So these are just the examples. And also we need to remember that ing is a very special suffix which changes the spelling of the verb before it a little bit. We're not going to stop at that now, but you can see the rules of spelling in the slide, and if you need to stop at them, please pause this video and read and maybe copy to your digest or whatever, right? So there are some special spelling rules. Now we move on to meanings, and the present continuous tense has 4 meanings. The first one is the most commonly spread one. So like 90% of all users of the present continuous are going to be this meaning. It's an action going on at the moment of speaking. So right now, at the moment of speaking, I'm standing here and I'm looking around me and I see something going on and I describe it, right? So you can see on the timeline that, for example, there is a sentence, look, the plane is landing. It means I'm standing on the field and I look at and I observe the action of landing made by the plane just as it goes on, right? And other examples, our typical examples here, will be about the situation when 2 people are talking about you and you don't understand why they are doing that because you're standing right there. So you say, why are you talking about me in the third person? I'm standing right here. So present moment of speaking. Another example will be from a song by Fool's Garden. I'm sitting here, okay, I need to sing that. I'm sitting here in the boring room, it's just another lazy Sunday afternoon, I'm wasting my time, and so on. So here the character of the song at the moment when he is singing the song is sitting here in the boring room, right? Or, for example, you have a situation when you have surgeons in the operation room and the 2 surgeons are talking about what is going on in their room at that moment when they're in the operation, in the middle of the operation, and one of them says, is the patient breathing right at the moment? And the other answers, we are losing him, right? So at the moment when they are performing an operation, they talk about this moment of speaking. Or you can look outside into the window and say the clouds are drifting across the sky. Or, for instance, I call one of my colleagues to help her with the website of our university, prep@mspu.ru, and then I tell her click on this button and she says, oh wait, the page is loading. At the moment of speaking, when we talk with her, the page is loading, right? Or, for instance, you're in the restaurant and you decide to have that famous exercise when you start describing in your head everything which you see, and this is a very good exercise if you want to learn speaking English all the time. So you start saying about looking around and saying that the waiter is standing behind the counter with a notepad in his hand. Two people are eating pasta by the window. A cat is walking by the window again. Okay, so this is the first meaning, an action going on at the moment of speaking. We move on to the second meaning. This is a rather rare meaning, but it's a good one. I like it. An action going on at the present period, but not necessarily right now. It means that there is some project, and the person who's talking is in the middle of this project. It occupies some period of time, but not necessarily right now. This person is occupied with working on that project. My favorite example here is an alumni meeting, встреча выпускников. When you are in an alumni meeting 20 years from now and we all stay together at some fancy restaurant, there is, I don't know, a little orchestra playing some soft tune, everybody has glasses of champagne in their hands, and we discuss the projects we're working on, right? We are all very important people now. And then we ask one of our group mates, for example, the monitor, and he or she says, I'm working on a novel, or I'm writing a novel about the Third World War. It's a sci-fi novel, right? So in this case, right at the moment when the person answered about writing a novel, this person is not writing anything. This person is standing with a glass of champagne in the middle of the fancy restaurant, right? But as a project, during the present period of time, this person is writing a novel. And other group mates can say, I'm buying a mansion in Florida, I'm planning my wedding, I'm reading Gone with the Wind in the original, or I'm opening a restaurant in Paris, or whatever, right? So all these situations, they mean that we are in the middle of a project which occupies the present period of time, and that's not necessarily right now we're working on that project. So the third meaning of the present continuous is my favorite meaning. In the textbook by Krylova and Gordon, it's a very complicated description, and I suggest we make it sound simpler. We say it's negative attitude to typical behavior, and we are going to have words like always, constantly, or never in the sentence, right? And what it means, if you look at the timeline, it means that this action actually happens quite a lot, right? It's like the present indefinite, repeated, recurrent action. But every time it happens, you're annoyed by this action. So you perceive this action as if it's a process. It's something which gets on your nerves, right? For instance, there are lectures on psychology. My best friend and I go there, attend them, and my best friend is always snoring at our lectures on psychology. And see how I translate this sentence. Вечно мой лучший друг храпит на наших лекциях по психологии. So I'm being emotional here. I can't say my friend always snores at our lectures, but it's just a statement, just a fact, right? Nothing interesting. Мой друг храпит на лекциях по психологии. I'm fine. Okay, that happens, right? But if I say my friend is always snoring, I'm saying вечно он храпит. Or, for instance, if there is a domestic quarrel and you say you're never washing the dishes, that means that никогда ты посуду не моешь. And this is the beginning of a big quarrel, right? An argument. Then, for example, we say students, oh, that's my pain. I put it in my video because it's painful for me to think about that. Students are always doing their homework at the last moment. Вечно студенты делают домашнюю работу в самый последний момент. So then, I can say students always do homework at the last moment. That's a fact, that's a statement, we all know that's true, right? But if I want to show that I'm annoyed with this, I say students are always doing, right? Or like, I don't know, my parents are constantly nagging. Вечно мои родители читают нотации. Or you're always embarrassing me in public. Вечно ты позоришь меня при людях. So then these sentences should be negative. They should be emotional. You feel something, right? The last meaning, the fourth meaning, is a planned action in the nearest future. That means that you look at some point in the future which is not far away, and you have already started some preparations for it, and you can say that the action is planned. Don't mix it up with the phrase I'm going to. I'm going to is a lexical phrase. This one is a grammatical means, right? I'm going to means I want to. There will be a difference between the phrases I'm going to do my homework and I'm doing my homework this Saturday. If you're going to do your homework, you just want to do that, there is no guarantee you actually will, right? If you are doing your homework on Saturday, this is a plan. You already told your parents not to call you on that day. You cooked some comfort food because you're going to be tired. You fit your schedule. So you have started preparations, right? So here there is an example about Torment and his birthday. On Thursday, Torment has celebrated his 90th birthday, so he has already decorated the room and ordered a cake, right? Or you say, I'm traveling to Berlin next week. It means that you have already bought the tickets, right? And took a vacation of your work. Then you can say, winter is coming, like the Game of Thrones, right? Winter is coming means that I can already see nights getting colder. There is reason to believe that winter is coming. Or the third example here, the royal couple are having a baby in early May because Kate Middleton is pregnant. She has a term, and you can predict how long it's going to take to have a baby, right? So yes, that's a planned action in the nearest future, and that's the last meaning of the present continuous. There is one more note. Some people can add it as the fifth meaning if they want to, or it can be a note to the present continuous tense generally. So when we talked about classification of verbs, we said that there are stative verbs and dynamic verbs according to their relation to the continuous form. And stative verbs are a group of verbs in English which are never used in the continuous form. You don't have any logical principle behind them. You just need to remember all of them, right? There is a list of them which you need to learn. And then these verbs, sometimes you see a sentence and you see this verb which was on the list in the present continuous tense. Normally that will mean that this verb is used in something which is not its primary meaning. It's some secondary meaning. So you can't translate see as видеть in this case, because it will be translated as something else. For instance, if I say I see you, I use the direct meaning, the primary meaning of the verb to see, I use my eyes, right? But if I say Taylor and Sam are seeing each other, this see does not mean they use their eyes to see each other. That means that they are dating, right? Or if I have a sentence where I use the verb to think. Think has a lot of meanings. One of them, the primary one, is to have an opinion. And I say, do you think it's true right now, right at the moment? It's a stative verb here in its primary meaning. You can't use the continuous form. If I say, are you thinking about the accident again? I use the verb to think in the secondary meaning, to be in progress of a mental process, right? I'm in the process of thinking. Or, for instance, the verb to have, one of very common verbs here. If I use a phrase, we have a cottage in Wiltshire, that means that we have papers that it's our cottage, so we possess the cottage. If I say I'm having a heart attack, looking at your homework, I'm having a heart attack does not mean that I own a heart attack. I don't have papers which say this is my property. It means that I am in the act of a heart attack. And this is a secondary meaning of the verb to have, not the primary one. The same is true for the verb to be, which we normally use in the meaning to be in the state, right? Or to have some feature. For example, you say, you are clever, that's your regular feature. You are cold, that's your state. And if I say you are rude, that means you are a rude person. That's your typical characteristic, your regular feature, right? If I say you are being very rude, it means that you are rude now, but I know that you are not rude all the time, so that's your unusual behavior. For example, if we have a very polite person, like the monitor of our group, and then the monitor one day starts answering very rudely, and I tell them, you are being very rude, but normally you are such a polite person, right? So you see the difference between to be in the meaning to be in the state and to be in the meaning to behave unusually, right? The same is true about feel. I feel cold, I'm feeling cold. If I see that the window is open and I don't like the temperature in the room, I'm going to say I feel cold. But if in the middle of something I suddenly stop and a shiver passes through my body, I say, I'm feeling cold, I can't explain it. It's sudden and it's not motivated by anything which I can see, right? And the last example for you to remember is the verb to love. Like if you remember verbs like love, like, and hate, they're not used in the continuous form. But the slogan of McDonald's, I'm loving it, means that I love it so much I need the continuous to talk about that. So that's love in the extra meaning super emotion, right? The same can be used about winter. For instance, if you say I hate winter, that's the direct meaning of the word hate. I have negative emotions against winter. I have something against winter. But imagine that day when it's -30 outside, everything is ice frozen. You walk to the shop and then you, on the way home, you slip on the ice, on that terrible ice under your feet, and you break some eggs in your bag, for instance, and your coat is dirty now. So you come back home, you take the gloves off your frozen hands, you look at all the mess you've made, and you look and you say, I'm hating winter. Like, this is the super emotion. This is enough reason to use the present continuous, because that's not the direct meaning of the verb to hate. Okay? The direct meaning of the verb to hate is much less emotional. So, this is all about the present continuous. Let me come back to you. So I hope you will remember that the four meanings of the present continuous tense are an action at the moment of speaking, an action at the present period, a negative attitude to typical behavior, then you have a planned action in the nearest future, and also you have a note that stative verbs change their meaning if they are used in the present continuous. Then it's their secondary meaning. So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope it was useful. See you next week.